Good morning. Today I would like to talk to us, not just you, us. Us meaning all kinds of people, but specifically people in the church. And when I say the church, I mean the church as a whole, right? It's a very broad general term. The church, I mean globally, I mean like everybody who claims faith in Christ, no matter what denomination, no matter what labels people use to identify themselves in that belief system. Faith in God through Christ. But here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, and it's a subject that people don't talk about much. Why? Because people are embarrassed about it. But it's a subject that needs to be talked about because it's a huge, very important subject. And it causes people more heartache, the misunderstanding of it, and the myths teachings about it, the incorrect teachings about it, than like tons of other issues. And that issue is celibacy and sexuality as relates to God when you are a person of faith. And I speak from experience, okay? I don't ever say that to brag, right? I never say that to be, oh, I'm the expert. No, I speak from experience. Why? In order to help people. Because I've been through this, I've done this, and I've seen hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, but tons of people, probably hundreds of people around me, dealing with the issues inside of the church and Christianity, and I've observed them. And I've seen how things work and how they don't work. And I've learned from the Lord in humility what really works and what really doesn't. Okay? Not that I'm something great. I'm just a guy, right? But I'm doing my best to hear from the Lord and share, okay? To help people. So, I speak from experience on this one, and I speak from talking to, like, I'm involved in the church. I've been involved in it for 35 years cumulatively, including some time as a child. Started when I was 19. Anyways, I feel like I'm repeating myself for those who have watched my videos, but for those who have never watched the videos, you might need to know this stuff, right? Because you'd be like, well, who's this joker? Okay, so anyways, here it is. The typical approach to sexuality is that it's wrong, it's bad, and we have to deny it. That prevalent mindset exists inside the church. It just does. Not always, not ubiquitously, but generally it's there. Okay? Having spent all this time in the church, that's the general attitude towards sexuality that exists. Like it's mostly a sinful thing. Okay? Again, not always. There are those who recognize it as God's creation and say, oh, we got to, but it's usually, that majority is very small. And most people are like, oh, brother, you got to control that. You got to conquer that, right? And some people have the right attitude in that, well, sex is God's creation and you have to use it correctly, which is the correct attitude. But very, very few. Okay? Because of the prevailing mindset. The prevailing mindset that does what? That tells you that it's wrong and it's bad and you have to beat it somehow. You have to conquer it. So, let's talk about that. Why is that bad? Why is that? And it is bad. That attitude, well, let me rephrase that. Instead of asking why is it bad, let me just tell you that attitude towards sex is wrong. And it causes so much damage. So let's talk about that. That's why this is important. Because sex is God's creation. It's part of His design. It represents His desire for love and life. I like to represent God. I like to I like to quote Romans 1:20 a lot, because Romans 1:20 says, what can be known about God can be seen through what is created. Okay? If you think about that, that opens up a wealth of opportunities around us to learn about God. Okay? And what's one of the prime areas that we can learn about God? Ourselves as God's creation. Okay? I mean, you can look at stars, you can look at nebula, you can look at the cosmos, you can look at the world and all the beauty in it, right? Not the broken parts, but the original design. You can say, wow, God, you're pretty cool, because it's him expressing himself, okay? So that applies to sexuality, okay? It's usually all hush hush and, oh, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it, right? But no, right, we want to be discreet and proper, of course, but when you grow up, you're going to deal with it. And you're going to have to know how to deal with it correctly. So that whole attitude is wrong. So God's creation, sex it represents his great value for love, right? And it represents his great value for life. So love, the joining together of people in love, it's not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing, right? If it's just physical, it can be very unfulfilling and boring, right? Plenty of people have had that experience. But when the spiritual goes with it, you experience how it's meant to be experienced. And it's a joyous, wonderful thing, right? But it's a direct representation of God's desire for love. A direct representation of God's desire for love. Okay? Because he is love. That's what it is at its heart. And number two, it's a direct representation of God's value for life. Why? Because in it, you create new life. That is what sex is at its heart. Okay? And if you try to deny that and squash that and celibacize that, I just made that word up, good luck. Because it is a powerful representation of God himself inside of humanity, and it never goes away. Okay? I took that approach when I was young of just hoping it would go away. And I did so many things to try to make it go away. I was like, nope, I'm going to be holy. I'm going to be holy. And every time I would feel the attraction towards women, I'd deny it and squelch it and make it go away. And I was celibate literally for, I think, 24 years when I finally came to the Lord at 19. And then I got married at 40. When did I get married? 42? I'm trying to do the math. I should know this stuff. Sorry. So what's that? 23 years. Okay. 23 years. That's right. 23 years. Okay. Or no. From 18 to, so yeah, 24 years, 18 to 42. And guess what? It doesn't go away. Your sexuality, your sexual drive, your sexual desires, they don't go away. And it's not just me. I've witnessed and talked with so many men about this issue, and a few women, but mostly men, right? And guess what? It doesn't go away for them either. It doesn't go away. Why? Because it's not a sinful, bad thing. It's a direct representation of God and his life, his value for love and life. One of the strongest representations of it. So you're not going to make it go away. If you're a young person of faith, a young Christian, guess what? It's not going to go away. No matter how hard you pray, no matter how hard you sit in accountability groups, no matter how much Bible you read, no matter how much whatever actions you take because you think it's wrong and sinful, it's never going away. Guaranteed. Why? Because it's a direct representation of God's value for love and life, which is who God is love. And he's like, I'm going to create this thing for my creation so they can better understand, that directly represents my value for love and life. Okay? And it needs to be honored as such. How? By following his design, by getting married and enjoying it. It's really that simple. Okay? It even says that in Proverbs. Solomon says it. He says you should just get married and enjoy the wife of your youth, right? Be exhilarated with her love. Let her breast satisfy you always, right? Why? Because Solomon knew that if you don't, you're going to have problems. Okay? Like so many people I've seen have problems, okay? I even know one guy, I don't think he'll mind me mentioning this, mention no names, who took a vow of celibacy, completely was not able to fulfill that, of course, right? He's happily married now. Okay? Because of course, because when you take a vow of celibacy, you're not acting in accordance with God's design. When you try to squelch your sexuality and just ignore it and try to make it, hope and pray that it goes away, you're fighting against God's design, and it's never going to happen. Should you use it correctly? Yes. You don't use it incorrectly, because if you use it incorrectly, well, then you just cause a ton of pain for yourself and the other people involved, person or people, right? It needs to be done correctly within marriage. You need to get married. Make sure you find somebody that you really love. Don't settle. Don't settle for just good. You know, okay, I think I'll marry this person because they'll be good for me. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Trust me on that. But find somebody that you really love and you really get along with, right? Somebody that loves Jesus just like you. Okay? And you guys have a proper understanding of biblical relationships between men and women. And then get married and enjoy sex. Right? That's God's design. And I recommend doing it when you're young. Don't rush into it because you need to make sure you choose the right person. Don't rush. But don't put it off for 24 years either. Because it'll really backfire on you. But I want to talk about a few of the ways how that it can... The typical approach causes damage. The typical approach causes damage. Why? Because when sexual desire remains, no matter what you do, it finds expression in unhealthy ways. If it's not finding expression within marriage, like it's supposed to, healthy, wonderful, regular expression, it's going to find expression in unhealthy ways, okay? This is the part you might not like, but this results, and I've seen this happen around me, tons of people, okay? This results in homosexuality. This results in the incorrect sexual actions of people towards children in the Catholic Church that we've seen. This results in fornication, right? Adultery. Why? And that's not it. That's a partial list. Why? Because the sexual desire, it doesn't go away. It's God's design going, I am going to find expression. I am going to express. It's not God himself, but it's God's design, right? Going, I must express my desire for love and for life, right? And when we don't do it God's way, it gets expressed other unhealthy ways. And that partial list I gave you is some of them. So this is why I'm making this video, because because the church, inadvertently, I say, most of the time, in their ignorance, by teaching people to abstain from sexuality and abstain from this stuff and just be holy, brother, do more damage. Why? Because they're ignorant. That is not God's plan. There are a few, and I mean a few people, who God says, this is my plan for you. They are so far and few between. I've never known any. I've known a lot who've tried and failed because it wasn't them. Jesus said there are eunuchs who are eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. What does being a eunuch mean? It means, in case you're not aware of it, trying not to be too graphic here, but it means castration. Okay? So that part of you goes away. That doesn't take away your desire for love, but it certainly, right, greatly reduces the desire for sex, obviously, for obvious reasons. Okay? But I don't know any of those people. Do you? Jesus said there were some, but let me tell you, they're few and far between. Paul said in Corinthians, he said, each man has his gift from God. He did say, I wish that people were like me. Paul was unmarried and concerned about the things of the Lord, right? But Paul was a rare case, man. Okay? I tried to be like Paul. I've known people who tried to be like Paul and they failed. Unless you know specifically, unless Jesus himself shows up in an unmistakable way and says, hey, this is what I want you to do, which is like probably 1 in a billion, don't try it. Don't do it. Do the healthy thing. Acknowledge your sexuality as God's creation. Get married. Find the right woman that you guys agree. I recommend at least 2 years getting to know a person, minimum. Okay? I speak from experience. Make sure you're somebody you want to be with for the rest of your life. And make sure you're compatible. Right? And it's somebody you want to be with. Because marriage is much more than sex, but that's another video, right? And then enjoy it. Enjoy each other. And give sexuality the honor and the expression that it's due. Give it the honor that it is due as God's creation. Thank you, and have a nice day.